Hey everybody, so I wanted to talk to you today about some ways that we can set up our lives in order to make working and studying from home a little bit more productive. Some things that we can think about ahead of time to reduce our stress in the long term. Some of the things that we're going to talk about are big picture planning, sort of thinking about how to set up systems that work to help us in the long term. And some of the things are going to be some daily habits, some things that we can do on a day-to-day basis as we're thinking about how to use our time. The first big picture item is to think ahead about making a schedule. And you can do this in a variety of ways. You can use something like Google Calendar to make a day-to-day schedule. You can use a paper calendar. You can even draw sort of 7 columns on a plain piece of paper and not have them be specific dates, but just have them be the 7 days of the week. And put on that calendar when you think you might like to work and when you have other duties in your household, when you need to set aside time to cook, when you want to exercise, when you want to sleep, however it is you're going to organize your time. This can be as detailed or as general as you want it to be. You want to aim for something that helps you think ahead without sort of being too rigid and adding to your stress. But if you do think ahead, if you make yourself a schedule that feels realistic to you, then on any given day when you wake up, you will know what you need to do. You won't have to think about it because you've already thought ahead about what you're going to do on each day of the week. A second important big picture item is to make sure that you have planned a space for your work. Sometimes when we hear work from home, we think about doing our work on the couch in our jammies or, doing our work from bed, and that's not always the best option. It can be really helpful to have spaces in your home that are kind of coded for different tasks. So a space where you work, a space where you eat, a space where you sleep, and a space where you do entertainment or other activities. If you're in the dorms, that can be really challenging to separate all those spaces, or if you're in a small apartment or a small house that you're sharing with lots of people. But it is possible, even if it just means sort of moving the chair to a different side of the table, or going down the hallway to a lounge, or finding another space on campus that is yours for working. Watch for a second video on this one where I show you how I've divided up the space in my apartment for different activities. Those last two big picture items, making a schedule and finding a place for work, require that you take care of this one, that you coordinate with other people in your space. Whether the other people in your space are roommates in the dorms, or your parents and siblings, or your spouse and children, whoever you're sharing space with, make sure that you all sit down together and you take into account everybody's needs over this extended period when we're all going to be home, so that everybody knows when other people need to be working and when they need to be using the resources in the family, especially if you're sharing computers or sharing a desk. Okay, last big picture item, plan for food. It helps to eat on a schedule. It helps to plan ahead to know when you're going to eat and what you're going to be eating. I know that for me, when I don't plan for food, I tend to work right up until the time when I need to eat, and I'm so hungry that I can't think, and then I make really bad choices for me when it comes to food. So everything works better for me if I plan ahead. So I'm giving you that piece of advice. Plan ahead for food. When you're going to eat it, what it's going to be, and when you're going to cook it. Okay, this side brings us from the big picture stuff to the more day-to-day stuff. So one of the perks that we often think about when it comes to working from home is the idea that you don't need to get dressed in the morning, that you can stay in your pajamas all day. But I'm here to tell you that after a couple of days, this gets really old. It also is just not helpful when it comes to putting ourselves in a work mindset. So the advice here is to in the morning, change your clothes, and at minimum, brush your hair and brush your teeth. You don't have to change into something formal. You don't have to change into clothes that are uncomfortable or fancy. Even just changing from the pajamas that you slept in to a different pair of sweats or some other kind of comfortable leggings and sweatshirt kind of ensemble will mark the change in activity, that you're not sleeping anymore. Now you're up for the day and you are ready to get some studying done. And brushing your teeth and hair just helps you keep on top of things. So get up in the morning or in the afternoon. Maybe you want to sleep through the morning and start your day at noon. You're welcome to do that. Whenever you get up, get dressed, brush your teeth and hair. Like the schedule that I talked about earlier, the to-do list is a thing that you need to balance. It should be detailed enough that you don't forget things that are important to you, but it shouldn't be so much detail as to be overwhelming and become a source of stress. So let me tell you what I do. I keep 2 to-do lists. In general, I write them weekly and then add to them over the course of the week as we go. And I do this on paper, although a lot of other people do it digitally. But my 2 to-do lists are one for university things and one for home things. And that helps me to remember that I have duties for both places, and also that I need to keep on top of making sure I get things done. So think about how a list might work for you if you want it to be digital or you want it to be on paper, how detailed you want it to be, and how often you're going to do list maintenance. So I start it at the beginning of the week, and then I look at it every day, and then the next week I start a new one. And if there are things on the last one that I didn't get done, I rewrite them. But think about something that works for you. When we're all on campus together, our days have a regular rhythm. Classes are 75 minutes long most of the time, and then you get up and you pack up your things and you walk out of the classroom and you walk to a different classroom, or maybe you go take lunch or something else. When we're working from home, it can become challenging to build that kind of structure, but it's really important that we take periodic breaks. And I've talked to you about this a little bit in the context of writing workshops. So what I recommend is something called the Pomodoro method, and there will be a link to more information about the Pomodoro method in the announcement that goes out with this slideshow. But basically what it is, that you work in chunks of time, 20 minutes or 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and you set a timer like the one you see on the screen. And when the timer goes off, you stop your work. I often finish writing my sentence so that I don't lose my train of thought, and then I stop. And then you set the timer again for the break. So you set the timer for a 5-minute break. And then you don't work during that 5-minute break. When the timer goes off at the end of the 5-minute break, you stop what you're doing, and you set it for the longer interval again, and then you work. I find that this really helps me stay focused when I'm working. When the timer is ticking away, I'm much more able to be focused on the thing that I am supposed to be doing. And often what I do, remember on the last slide I told you that I keep a university to-do list and a home to-do list. Oftentimes in those 5-minute breaks from work, I'll do something off the home to-do list. So if it's my day to do the dishes, during a 5-minute break, I'll empty the dishwasher. And then during the next 5-minute break, I'll load the dishwasher. And then during the next 5-minute break, I will make a pot of tea. So work in chunks of time and plan for breaks. So when you have a to-do list and you're sitting down looking at your to-do list, trying to decide what it is you're going to do in this particular chunk of working time, one important thing to think about is how much energy do you have at that moment? Are you feeling good? Do you have lots of energy? Do you feel like you can think through hard things and solve problems or write new words on paper? If you do, then choose something off your list that has a high cognitive load, something that is going to require that kind of energy and effort. But sometimes when your schedule says that you should be working and you sit down and you're ready to start that timer for 25 minutes, you just don't have any energy. But you know that you still need to get work done. So look for something on your list that maybe requires less energy or effort. So in the example of writing, putting new words on paper is pretty high energy, high effort. That's a big thing. But making sure that your formatting is complying with MLA style, that's a pretty small thing. That's something that you can probably do even if you're feeling like you're not at your best. You can check your margins and add your page numbers and make sure that you're using a consistent font. All that kind of checking stuff you should be able to do as a small thing, maybe when you have less energy. So as you look at your to-do list and you're sitting down to work, check in with yourself and then choose something that is appropriate to your energy level in that moment. So the last piece of advice is to be flexible. Most of your classes in the joint program this semester will be on campus, but your class with me is going to be remote. So we'll be meeting on Zoom and interacting with each other through Canvas. As the epidemiological situation continues to evolve with SARS-CoV-2 and with monkeypox, and as the geopolitical situation evolves, we're all just going to need to keep being flexible. The joint program may change what they're asking us all to do over the course of the semester. You might also find that the situation wherever you're living, whether you're in the dorms or with your family, changes. Or the situation with work that you may be doing or an internship might also change. Everything in our lives is asking us to be flexible, and that can be really hard. So the way that I cope with all of this uncertainty is to follow this advice that I have just given you. I have my schedule and I have my to-do lists, and I get up in the morning, I get ready for the day, I sit down and check in with myself and do the things that are suited to my energy level with the understanding that things might change. So I know this was a lot of information. I hope that it feels like it might be useful to you, and I hope you can use it to help make this semester as successful and as good an experience as it can be. Once you're done watching this video, you can go back to Canvas, return to that first module on the course Canvas page, and taking information from here and from the other videos that are linked there, go ahead and jump into conversation with your classmates. What can you implement? What can you use? What can you try? I look forward to interacting with you more on Canvas and on Zoom throughout the semester.